Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast and joining me for the Texans postgame show. Another sad Texans postgame show is Sports Radio 610, Shaun Bijani. And between the two of us, 40 years combined in sports journalism, 35 years covering Houston sports. And I've seen a lot over the years. And I might be wearing my red Rockets cap, Shaun, because Rocket season can't get here fast enough, and because Choke City is back, baby.
3 weeks in a row, right? You have an opportunity to go down and get it, tie and or win a game. And today, I mean, the Texans and Davis Mills just continue to find different ways to lose. But just imagine if they played 14 more of these kind of games to round out the end of the season. Like, I'm going to do some research for us this week. And I'm going to see just how many games over the course. I'll go back 7 years, Robert, and I will die on this hill right now. You can reference this in a week, in 3 days when we do our next show. No other team in the NFL has played as many close games decided by 7 or fewer points than the Houston Texans. Like, they are the most competitive, frustrating, losing team that I can remember.
Outscored 30-0 so far in fourth quarters. We're going to get into this. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube. That's how you can support the show. We do this every week, and we are also doing a midweek show that you're going to want to check out. Midweek Texans show, also talking Astros and everything else that's going on in Houston sports. Make sure to look for all of it. But let's get to this one. We like to take you possession by possession. Bears first possession. They drive down the field for a field goal, thanks mostly to a Michael Vick-type scramble by Justin Fields. Got to give him credit on that. Texans first possession. Nothing new. 3 and out. Same old story. Davis Mills, incomplete pass to the just activated Jordan Akins. Flashback to you older brothers that have Texans fans from 2 years ago. Remember Jordan Akins. Bears easily marched down the field for a touchdown, Shaun. 111 yards rushing on their first two possessions. 281 yards rushing total today. Only 11 of those yards from David Montgomery, hurt early in the game. The Texans, Shaun, were number one in the NFL in missed tackles the first 2 weeks, and it feels like it was the same story. Like, it's this, put it on rerun.
Yeah. The missed tackles, it's certainly a problem. I feel like they've had a lot of opportunities, and I'd be interested to go back and see just how many of those missed tackles came from behind the line of scrimmage, because I feel like they've had a lot of opportunities to get some TFLs on handoffs, but a lot of sacks missed. And Jerry Hughes had one today. I think Christian Kirksey had another one today. There were just some really big chances for the Texans to make a big splash defensively and change the momentum early in this game and even late in this game. And they're not able to do it. And I don't really know what it is. Maybe you can dumb it down to, you know what? The talent level on this Texans team just isn't up to snuff with your average to above average NFL rosters. And that's just kind of what it is. I mean, we've kind of talked about that all season long. Yeah, you've got some journeymen. Yes, you have some intriguing young players on both sides of the ball, but in particular defensively, I think it's just kind of what separates below average teams from everybody else. And the Texans have a lot of those players, I think.
Texans have a lot of linebackers that are in a witness relocation program right now. I don't know where they are. Christian Kirksey, especially, Jonathan Owens leading all of the NFL after 2 weeks in tackles, had 11 more in this game. He should not be making all the tackles. We talked about it last week. We'll get back to that in a bit. But Texans finally have a good first quarter drive, though. 7 plays, 75-yard touchdown drive. Mills to Chris Moore, 52 yards, helped set it up. Jordan Akins, I said it again. Jordan Akins finishes it off with a touchdown. Thank you, Brian Gain.
Yeah, I guess, right? Give him his props. Like, he made some good moves. In large part, if you go back and look, Brian Gain understandably got fired, maybe a little bit of a head scratcher whenever he did initially. But I thought that was a really nice throw by Davis Mills to Jordan Akins to find him running like a little crosser towards the back left of the end zone. He put it where only Akins could make the catch. He threw a couple of those balls today to receivers. Some came down with the ball. Most of the time they didn't. I thought in the red zone, it was really important. I think That was the first red zone target for a tight end all season long. A team that hasn't really looked at the tight ends as much as they use multiple formations with 2 tight ends, sometimes even 3 tight ends.
Well, OJ Howard had the touchdowns in week 1. And where is OJ Howard gone? Because we haven't seen anywhere. I thought we were going to see some of him a little bit more in these last couple of weeks, but not really.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe it was like Brown and Brevin Jordan have had 0 red zone targets. You're right. OJ Howard did have those 2 touchdowns. I don't know. Did both of those come in the red zone though?
One of them did for sure. I remember that. That was pretty close to the goal, and I can't remember how close the other one was. But
I
yeah, I
think
mean, it's he's looking for guys in the end zone, and sometimes it's tight ends or it's been different guys. He's spreading it around. I don't think he's like zeroing in on anybody in particular in the red zone. It just
right.
seems like it just isn't happening for him. Jalen Pitre, though, first career interception. We're going to get more to him. Officials made me a little bit nervous about it. But the Texans get inside the 10. Mills with a rare interception for him. We thought it was rare. Of course, we'll see later in the game. It happened again. But he was trying to anticipate Cooks being open on a slant. Now, Shaun, that one is about overconfidence in Cooks a little bit. But honestly, I got to give credit to the defender for undercutting the route and getting his hand on it. Davis had to guess Cooks had a step on his defender right there. You get a millisecond to decide that. 9 out of 10 times, the anticipation would be right there.
Yeah, Cooks, if you go back and look at that play, Cooks actually flashed open, for a hot second. But Mills, if you notice, he kind of did a little pump fake. And I don't think he had the angle to make that throw. When he pump fakes, he's still kind of moving back and towards the right. And then he goes ahead and decides to make that throw. And it was a great play by the defender. I can't remember who was covering Cooks particularly, but to get a hand in there, it's kind of a tough luck interception. We see those every week from a quarterback, and that's something I just can't pin on Mills. Here we go. He can't make the throw. I thought it was a fine throw, but even a better defensive play by who was covering Cooks.
James Lofton has made a point, and NFL wide receiver and a dang good one. He's made the point a couple different times that Mills is taking a little bit too long in the red zone, making his decision. He needs to get rid of the ball quicker. He's made that point. That's something that you hope in time that changes, but get it together, brother, because we need you to get going here. Texans D with a 3 and out on offense. Texans can't move it. Mills looking for Pharaoh Brown on 3rd and long. He misses high like he always does now. And why isn't he throwing? Why is he throwing it to Pharaoh Brown in close coverage? I guess my question is not exactly my first, second, or 5th choice is to let me get to Pharaoh Brown in tight coverage.
Yeah, that was kind of questionable to me. Not necessarily the look to Pharaoh Brown, but the coverage on Pharaoh Brown. I thought that's one of those calls that could go either way. Unfortunately, the Texans didn't get it, but I thought it very well could have easily been a pass interference call on the Bears. He had a pretty firm grip with both hands on Pharaoh's jersey while the ball was in the air. And so, yeah, I mean, we can nitpick and say, why are you looking at Pharaoh at that point in time? But I think if Pharaoh's able to get a cleaner release, that goes down as a completion, and maybe they continue the drive at that point in time.
Pharaoh Brown, I'm going to get back to him in a second, but 3 and out by the Texans D. Good punt return by Desmond King. Got to give it up for the special teams. Nice job by those guys all game long. Thought they played a great game. It sets up Dameon Pierce that we fell in love with. This is him. This is the guy we love. This is the guy we're handing him roses and chocolates and everything. 4 straight carries, 41 yards, closes it out with a 1-yard touchdown, Shaun. This is him.
Yeah, he was spectacular. I mean, that was his series. He pulled off a couple of different spin moves. I thought it was fantastic blocking, by the way, by the offensive line when they got down in the red zone to set up that 1st and goal. It was kind of a zone blocking play to the left sideline, and Pierce was just able to find that hole, cut it up, and on the very next play, he got that touchdown. I thought, round of applause to Pierce, round of applause to the offensive line there, doing some great blocking. Pierce, unfortunately, with 2 fumbles today, both times the Texans were fortunate enough to recover. I think that's something to keep an eye on, and I'm sure we're going to get to it here in a little bit, but I don't know if Pierce saw the field after that second fumble.
Yeah, we're going to get to that for sure. So next Bears possession, Bears settled for a field goal because Jerry Hughes with his fourth sack of the season to stop the drive, the one real bright spot, I think, from the Texans defensive line and pass rush this year. And Texans with a 3 and out. They didn't have Pierce in the game that whole possession. Not thrilled, Shaun, with taking out your best offensive weapon right there. They got to figure out a way to get him the ball in space in the passing game. We saw a little bit later in the game, but to just give up on playing him right there with a 2-minute drive and him rolling makes no sense.
No. And, look, they had a 3rd and 1 opportunity there. And I can't remember what the second down was. I wish I could remember the yardage on that second down. It was probably second and manageable, maybe a 2nd and 6 or something like that. But to have a 3rd and 1 opportunity at that stage of the game and to not have your best weapon on the field, that concerns me. But the play calling still bothers me in that instance. The Texans did it earlier in this game. I think it was the first quarter where they just become so darn predictable. And it was on a Pierce run where he was actually in the game, maybe on their first series. They have 9 guys in the box defensively, and Pierce, busts through a hole, runs for 6 yards. They go 9 in the box again on the very next play, and you give the ball to Pierce, almost identical run. And that's where I would just like to see some deception. On a 3rd and 1 opportunity for Pep Hamilton, regardless of your personnel, make the defense think a little bit, add some motion, create some sort of deception, some confusion, even for a millisecond. You have 1 yard and Davis Mills has to throw the ball away on a straight pass option here. Let's have a little creativity. You can come out with the imbalanced line and some funky, sets, but when it really comes down to it, 3rd and 1, that's where the Texans have really struggled on 3rd down period this season. You have to make the defensive think, and I haven't seen that, unfortunately, to this point from Pep Hamilton enough.
Yeah, and I got more on him in a little bit. You took care of a little bit of him. I'm going to take care of more Pep Hamilton down the road. So Bears shut down before the half, so we'll move to the second half. Texans drive down for a field goal, 17-13 Texans. On 3rd and 8, there was a designed screen for Pharaoh Brown, which I wasn't in love with. Pharaoh is the last Texans tight end I want to see trying to make plays in the open field. And the Pharaoh Brown screenplay, I don't know what they were in love with. I don't know why the sudden love affair in this game with Pharaoh Brown. He's not in my top 5, 6, 7 playmakers on the Texans. He's not somebody I want in the open field. Jordan Akins had a really good game. Jordan Akins has got a little bit of ability to break stuff open if you're going to go with the tight end. But if not, give it to Pierce or Nico or somebody that you feel like it cooks more, somebody else. But Pharaoh Brown?
Yeah, and you mentioned Nico. I'm still shocked that he got 4 targets today and I think ended up with 2 catches, because I had to go back and look at the box score and see oh my God, I thought Nico didn't even play today. Where was that guy? He was just that non-important to the Texans offense today. And look, the Texans tight end wise, they were short. Brevin Jordan out for today's game. So they were going to go Brown. OJ Howard was available. Obviously Jordan Akins. It's kind of like pick your poison, to be honest with you. But in terms of creating yards after contact, I really like what OJ Howard can do. We haven't seen much of it, but he's a big body who has that never give up attitude that I've seen. But my gosh, I would have really liked to have seen, if you're going to go check down to a tight end right there, give it to Akins, because that guy is a freaking fighter. I love it. They rewarded him a couple of times today, as we saw with the touchdown. But it's another one of those situations where I'm just not a fan of the play calling on those 3rd downs. I just don't think, when we talked about this a lot, Robert, but from a personnel standpoint, are you giving Davis Mills a chance to succeed? Hey, your roster is what it is. But if you're going to go with what you have on this roster, then you have to accentuate it with the play calling. And I just think calling those types of plays short of the chains on 3rd down just ain't going to do it. It's just not going to do it. That's not giving Davis Mills a chance to succeed. That's not giving your team the best opportunity to extend drives.
Yeah, the thing is, Davis Mills, he's a second-year quarterback that didn't play a lot in college. He gets a little bit of room to make some mistakes here and there. I
Fine.
know it's been too many, but yeah, Pep Hamilton's been around. He's a veteran. This is a guy that's been around the NFL, and he has looked awful. He has looked like the worst coach on the team by far. The offensive line's had its struggles, but the offensive line played really well today, and they improved. You can point to other things about this team, maybe the linebacker coaching, but I don't know how much talent there really is there. The problem is, Pep Hamilton's got some talent, and I feel like he has no idea how to utilize it, and he's so obvious with some of the stuff that he's doing.
Yeah, I want to say that's a little strong, that he's looked like the worst coach. I'm not personally prepared to go there yet, but I mean, I do see your point. I do think he's underutilizing the talent that he does have. And I do think he's underutilizing his own creativity, which we've seen. And it takes great discipline to be as creative as the Texans have shown they want to be with some of the sets and motions that they've run. And in terms of the route concepts and the decision making, which comes down to the player and Davis Mills, I mean, that all is questionable. And Pep Hamilton can only do so much when your quarterback struggles to get through his progressions, whether it be a timing aspect, whether it be somebody that maybe has the yips, has some happy feet, is afraid of taking a sack and turning the ball over. I don't know what it is. It's probably a culmination of all of those things. But I do think Pep Hamilton is kind of overprotecting his guys. And unfortunately, it's costing this offense. When you do that for fear, out of fear of turning the ball over or exposing a player or players, then you're not playing winning football. You're not going to finish games. You're going to play it safe. And 9 times out of 10, when you try to play it safe, you're going to lose.
Yeah, I just think if you look at it between offense and defense, Lovie's getting the most out of what he's got on defense. I don't feel like Pep's getting the most out of what he has on offense. So the Bears respond with the touchdown drive. It's as simple as the Texans can't stop the run. I mean, we can talk about this till we're blue in the face.
Big plays.
Not sure what's left to say there. Let's move to the Texans on offense. They get stopped on 3rd and 1, but pull out the fake punt. It works. Again, special teams. I said it earlier. They were great. 3rd and 1 at the 2. Hated. No, this is the worst of the worst from Pep Hamilton in this game. Hated the formation, Shaun. Literally no need for the Bears not to have 11 guys in the box when you got the fullback on the field. You got a bunch formation. You just basically said, all right, Bears, we're running Dameon Pierce at you. And, everybody, I said it on Twitter, my dead great-great-great-grandma saw this one coming.
Yeah, 3rd and 1. That's kind of what happens. You're stacking the box. You allow 8, 9 defenders in. The Texans' best is not better than anybody else's best in that situation. It doesn't matter who you're playing. You could be playing the worst run defense in the league. If you put 9 guys in the box and say, hey, we're going to beat you, you're not. I don't care if it's Pierce or anybody else running the football. Roquan Smith got in the backfield for the TFL and initiated that blow up. But I mean, the Bears rallied 2, 3, 4 other guys into the backfield that were right behind Roquan Smith in that instance. And that again is just where I want to see a little bit of that deception, a little bit of motion, make the defense think that you're not going to run your best offensive player in that position. Just, you have to create a question in the minds of your defense there.
Yeah, you can see my eyes rolling in the back of my head as you're talking there. And so the Texans get the field goal to tie the game. They settle for 1, but then Jalen Pitre benefits from another poor Justin Fields pass. Give him credit for making the plays, but also bad throws. 2nd interception for him. But the Texans, another terrible looking screen pass for Farrell Brown on a 3rd down play. Awful. So we're back to them forcing a punt near midfield. And a Dameon Pierce, the Texans force the Bears with a punt at midfield, but Dameon Pierce fumbles. And the Texans recover, but that basically puts him in the doghouse. I mean, he's in, I don't know if it's Pep's doghouse, I don't know if it's Lovie's doghouse, but let's get to that in a second. There's a holding by Quesenberry, which hurts, followed by a worthless draw play to Rex and a hopeless screen pass to Rex. because Dameon Pierce makes one mistake, or you could say he made two. By the way, neither one of them cost because they recovered both of the fumbles. And unlike the other rookies, who I guess get to make whatever mistakes and they just stay on the field forever, I'm sure Jalen Pitre and Derek Stingley out there are just they're playing to perfection, I guess, Shaun, because they don't get taken out of the game immediately when they make a mistake. And this is this is a deal where this is a learning season. This is a learning team. You're gonna have to live with some mistakes. And Pierce is your best weapon. You can't punish the team because Pierce makes a couple of mistakes.
Yeah, it's a head scratcher. I don't understand it because Pierce fumbles the ball a second time, you take him out. Sometimes I can see that. Look, it can be about hard contact. Sometimes you give him a breather, you put him back in. But they both times it wasn't like he'd taken incredibly hard contact. It was a situation where a defender came in and got all ball, punched it out, and did what they were supposed to do. Okay, you put the ball on the ground, no harm, no foul, because the Texans were able to recover both times. After the first fumble by Pierce, though, they put him right back in. Very next play, gave him a carry for positive yards. Okay, so you fumble a second time in a later stage of the game. I can understand if it's hard contact, or maybe he'd been on the field for XYZ amount of plays, whatever, because the Texans were just that last series, they were on the field for 7.5 minutes, which was incredibly important in this game if the Texans were going to have an opportunity to win a game, giving their defense a lot of time to rest after they were just getting mown over by the Bears run game all day. And you needed an extended drive. So 14 plays, I think it was, 50 some odd yards for 7.5 minutes. That was huge. That next offensive series, Pierce puts the ball on the ground, no harm, no foul. You get the ball back, fine. Let's reassure him that we have confidence in you. And you don't have to give him the ball the very next play, but don't take him out, because we've still seen his value as a pass blocker and a guy that has improved on, protecting Mills in the backfield when he chooses to pass. And the checkdowns to Rex were just mind-numbingly frustrating, on second and longs, on 3rd and 18 with the stupid checkdown, on the interception, those are the things that are just inexcusable. And those are the things, Robert, if this team was not expected to be bad this year, if they were expected to vie for division and you're making these kinds of mistakes, these are fireable offenses that Pep Hamilton is making personnel-wise, play-calling-wise, and management-wise. So going forward, I know we're 3 games in, and I know they've had an opportunity to win all 3 of these games, regardless of how they've looked. It just is about utilizing the talent that is going to be here far beyond potentially when this is supposed to be a competitive and a winning football team. You got to give these guys a chance. Take your kid gloves off and let this guy, who is the toughest, hard-nosed baller you got offensively, not named Brandon Cooks, let him out there and do his job.
Pep's not going to last after this year. That's blatantly obvious. Nick Caserio is going to hold people accountable. I do not think Pep lasts beyond this year. I feel like that's looking like more and more of a mistake. There's a reason why, he would come to the Texans in this crap show last year with David Culley as the head coach and everything. I mean, I think he was a guy that was not wanted around the rest of the NFL. And so that's why he landed in the Texans' lap. Just so many things with him that are frustrating. And we can get mad at Davis Mills if we want, but he's learning these mistakes. You hope eventually change with him. But if they don't, it's as simple as he wasn't thought of as the guy that was going to be the savior anyway. He was a 3rd-round pick. You took a flyer. But Pep Hamilton, this is about the entire team and the offense and everything, that where you just feel like, that was a guy that everybody, I guess, was high on. Texans fans were, but, success with Andrew Luck, but big deal. It was Andrew Luck that he had success with. And I'm more impressed when you're having success with guys like Ryan Tannehill and some of the more mediocre quarterbacks around the NFL. But, I mean, I'll just finish off the game with the Texans punt, but Pitre gets a huge sack, so the Bears punt. Pitre, huge game. 2 interceptions and that sack. He's coming on, but fourth quarter, Davis Mills strikes again. Bears interception. Game over. I was having Matt Schaub flashbacks at that point. That looked like a very Matt Schaubish end of this game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. Even Schaub, had some weapons that he was able to utilize, and they seemed to move the chains a little bit more. I mean, it's hard for me to just destroy Davis Mills on this one because his interceptions, they were both tipped, defensed balls, and it is what it is. But that last interception, shocker, who was he looking for on the check down? Rex Burkhead.
Who wasn't open, by the way. And I don't know if the ball isn't tipped, if it's not intercepted, but I can tell you it probably isn't completed anyway. And I guess, my frustration with the Texans is starting to zero in on two guys, and it's Mills and Pep, because look, the offensive line, like I said, offensive line was great today. They had one bad play. There was one in the fourth quarter where there was like some confusion and it caused a sack. But I mean, come on. It was basically one bad play by the offensive line. The timing, we know, wasn't great on that particular play in the fourth quarter. However, offensive line improved greatly in this game. We talked about Justin Britt not being around, and all of the confusion last week might have had something to do with what was going on with the offensive line and some stuff that was going on with them. But you look at the rest of this team, and I feel like everybody's getting the most out of what they've got, except for Pep Hamilton and Davis Mills. And I just feel like those guys aren't getting it done. And really it's coming down to Pep Hamilton. And, maybe he doesn't even get through the whole season. Maybe, at some point you keep losing in the fourth quarter and he keeps making bad plays. I don't know. I don't know if it's like, because at some point you can't just keep blaming everything on Davis Mills. You can't say this is all Davis Mills' fault. And let me just say, Dameon Pierce, I don't know whose call it is, but I would love to know. Maybe you can ask that this week. Maybe somebody can ask, whose call is it to take Dameon Pierce out when he makes a mistake like he did late in the third quarter against the Broncos? There was, some foul up where he was lined up in the wrong place, and then he's sort of invisible in the fourth quarter of that game. He makes the fumble. He's invisible there. And whose call is it? And it's Casario's call. Whose call is it not to have somebody? If you don't trust Dameon Pierce, if Pep Hamilton is this distrustful of him, and if Lovie's this distrustful of him, whose call is it to say, well, then we're putting the whole running back offense on Rex, old man Burkhead, who has no explosion, who's just a guy, who was never more than just a guy ever in his life. Tom Brady makes everybody look a little bit more than just a guy, but he's just a freaking guy. That's all he is. That's all he is. And this is Casario's fault for putting the offense in that position, but it's also Lovie and Pep Hamilton for saying, we don't trust Dameon Pierce anymore. And that's where I get frustrated. It's just the terrible play calls and the like, we're going to pull the plug on Dameon Pierce when this team is not going to the stupid Super Bowl. You play through your mistakes by your fourth round rookie draft picks that's showing you that he's got real explosion. And I'm sorry to go on and on about this, but it makes me extremely angry, Shaun, that this is where we are, and it's this mismanagement.
Yeah, look, I've seen play calling far more egregious than this, from the Texans in years past. A lot of it in the Bill O'Brien era, even when Gary Kubiak was calling plays and turned things over to Kyle Shanahan. We've seen far more egregious, poor play calling before. The fact that, these first three games the Texans have had opportunities to win late should satisfy to some degree because they've mucked games up. And I'll do credit to Lovie Smith's defense and his preaching of turnovers. They've gotten them. They've set themselves up for opportunities. The offense hasn't nearly routinely enough capitalized on those turnovers created by the defense. Special teams play has put the opposition in some very difficult situations where the defense has really struggled at times to capitalize on those things. At the end of the day, look, we talked about this last week. You're not going to pitch a perfect ball game, and that's not really what you need. You've got a quarterback who is not even a game manager at this point. He's a guy in Davis Mills who is continuing to learn on the fly. And today was his 14th NFL start. That's the same exact amount of games that he played total in college. Okay, so where I'm going to come at with him in terms of destroying his play is nothing, not coming from like a hateful place, an unfair spot. It's just kind of, it is what it is. You have to understand that. And the fact that you have this guy as your quarterback for this team and you've been in position to win games late 3 straight weeks out of the gate, it's pretty incredible.
It's not incredible when you look at the competition. Let's not give them credit. They aren't playing what I look as Super Bowl contenders. Yeah, the Colts, okay, they beat the Chiefs today. Everybody thought the Colts would be halfway decent, but nobody was like, the Colts are one of the best teams in the AFC. Right. Matt Ryan's not a good quarterback anymore. Let's call a spade a spade. Russell Wilson, not that good of a quarterback anymore. He struggled against everybody. Justin Fields stinks. Lovie Smith, to be honest with you, should have been throwing some more blitzes his way. Lovie Smith is playing real cowardice football on defense against quarterbacks that aren't that good. And again, with the defense that's not good enough to go, okay, we're just going to out coverage another team out with our defense. You got to, put some more pressure on Justin Fields in some bigger situations. How many times did the Texans show blitz in this game and then not bring it? And I get it. Yeah, the Bears didn't have a ton of points, but should they have even scored 23 points? I mean, show some guts on defense, Lovie. So, I went out hard on Pep Hamilton. Lovie, it's not the same, but still, the one frustration is he hasn't been aggressive enough against quarterbacks that, like, they're in trouble anyway. The crowd was turning against Russell Wilson. Matt Ryan was not good against the Texans. You could have thrown some blitzes at those guys. They're not at the point of their career where, oh my God, I'm so scared of those guys when you throw a blitz. This isn't Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. It's just really frustrating. The Texans play like they have something to lose, and they don't. Why do you think you've got something to lose? Why are you playing like that? You're playing like losers.
Yeah, playing it safe. That's kind of what I said earlier. And that's not going to win you a lot of ball games, which, maybe incredible is a little bit of a strong word, but I just find it fascinating that, with the way that they've played, not having that killer instinct, they've had an opportunity to go win a game in each of the first 3 weeks. That to me, is kind of shocking. And that's why I say, if they had these opportunities more times than not, in 10 of the next 14 ball games to end the regular season, that's incredible. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. It's going to take another 2 to 3 weeks, Robert, before I think we kind of figure out what the rest of this league is going to look like and what the remaining games on the Texans schedule are really, how seriously we need to take those. The first 3 weeks of an NFL season are always just kind of wild, wacky, crazy. Look at what the Colts did today. They were able to beat the Chiefs. My gosh, I had that game pegged, guaranteed to go to overtime. And then Patrick Mahomes throws an interception, to end it. It's just one of those weird, wild, wacky things. And look, this Texans team, who we think they are right now, is probably nowhere close to being what they really are. I kind of side with, look, as miraculous, if you want to put it that way, that they've had an opportunity to win these games late the first 3 weeks. You could say, man, this team is going to get the brakes beaten off of them over the course of the next 14 games. And I believe you, okay, because teams will get better. The Texans will get better at certain aspects, but at the end of the day, do you have the guys? Do you have the coaches, to continue to help you take the next steps? I don't know if they do. I'm not going to crush Pep Hamilton yet. I want to see a little bit more, because would his play calling look a little bit different? Would we have more confidence if you had a different guy not named Davis Mills throwing the football and making decisions back there? Maybe. And that's kind of what I want to see more of. We could talk all we want about the growth of Davis Mills, the growth of Dameon Pierce, and the continuity of this offensive line. Fine. But what about all of those things with the coaching staff? It's their first year as well. I know guys have been there, done that, and this is Lovie's third tour as being a head coach in the NFL. But This is his first time in 7 years of doing just that with this group. You got to figure it out. You got to learn. And it comes down to being able to learn who your guys really are more than just in training camp and in preseason and in practices. It takes games. And he's slowly but surely, I think, being able to figure out what he can and can't do.
Yeah, I just get extremely frustrated and tired of coaching in the NFL that is very cowardice not to lose coaching. I see it way too often. For a game that's played by brave guys out there on the field, we have a lot of cowardice in coaching staffs around in the NFL. And, Andy Reid, he always ends up there towards the end of the year because he plays with guts. And that's Andy Reid's style. And there's so few of those guys, and Belichick as well, that, they stick out because everybody else, it seems like, plays not to lose. And I hate that mentality. Especially when you don't have the talent to begin with. You throw it all out there, you make it fun for the fans, you make it fun for the players that are playing and all that sort of stuff. Gonna wrap it up. I want to wrap it up, Shaun, because I got to remind everybody, if you're not subscribing, you're missing things like I talked to a former Bear this week leading up to the game that not only does a podcast, but he played for Lovie. He talked about Lovie and the players in tears after Lovie got fired by the Bears. I don't know where else you're getting this content from, Texans fans, but we're trying to bring you stuff. Shaun's there every day with the Texans. He's at the stadium. So please subscribe to us. Tell people about this. We want to grow this thing out. We think there's something huge here between the two of us. Tons of experience. There's great chemistry between us, and I think everybody needs to know about what's going on here. I'm going to brag a little bit because I think we're doing a great job, and just really good stuff week in and week out. Texans, another chance next week. I mean, there's winnable games on this schedule, so we'll see what happens. Great to have you again with me, Shaun, and look forward to doing this again. We'll be coming at you guys again midweek, but looking forward to it, Shaun.
Definitely looking forward to it, man. Always appreciate getting to come on after the game and chop it up with you and talking some ball. So we'll look forward to it on Wednesday.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, you can support the show by subscribing on YouTube and commenting on the videos. Listen to Houston Sports Talk on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, and Google. Don't forget to tell a friend and share our show on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.